Hello, everybody. This is Fork Poppy. This week I'm joined by Ryan.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk
Absolutely.
about some value vintage.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We've been seeing you at the top of these results nearly every week, so it's definitely high time. So this week I did not play in the mtgo event. It's my birthday weekend, and I saw that Final Boss Games down in Arkansas was running a charity event, and it was like I got invited. I thought it would be a really great time. It was a bit of a long drive, but I went out. Everybody there was really sweet. It was a great cause. They were giving out a bunch of extra prizes and raffles and everything. So I really want to give a major shout out to the team and the players at Final Boss Games. I ended up bringing allies. I went 3-2, got fifth place. I took one loss in the Swifts and then lost in the quarterfinals. So I'm just going to go a quick review of my deck. It's not too dissimilar to when I played it on the channel a few weeks back. The biggest changes was I wanted to try a Water Tribe Rallier because the pilot who played my list at Richmond slotted a few of these in and said they were good. I was really scared of Nadu, so with some price drops, I fit in two Swords to Plowshares main, and additionally with those price drops, I found room for Soul Ring. But the general core of the deck is about the same. A few swaps to the sideboard, but nothing notable. I did decide to go on a couple of White Orchid Phantoms. While I do think the post matchup is already good, post is so dominant right now. I'm happy to have that. Sanctifier was my out for both Nadu and Hogaak, two things I was pretty scared of this week. And
Yeah,
then the rest has been
Sanctifier's pretty brutal for Hogaak, so that's definitely a good call there.
yeah, I think a lot of, Soul Guide Lantern, it just doesn't do enough. I still played a couple
Yep.
Soul Guides because there's a few decks like Living End it does line up better against, but Hogaak's got great
Mhm.
resiliency into it. Nadu can just remove it. So something like Sanctifier or Leyline have been much higher on.
Something I'm curious about is the mana base here. Do you not, or I guess you're on the four secluded courtyard.
Hmm.
Um, is that like, I know there's like a bunch of like other copies of those like tribal lands. Do you just not feel like four is like you feel like you don't need more than four of those?
So far, I
Um,
haven't. This is a little bit of a holdover from when the sideboard was built differently. Like, both Azorius and Selesnya mana are really cheap. I talked about this in my
yeah.
last podcast as well. Those are some of the best color pairs for dual lands. And pain lands are especially good in this deck because you just gain so much life, it's basically irrelevant.
Yeah,
But
that
I
makes
used to
sense.
want to cast, Spell Pierce out of the sideboard or Stern Dismissal. Now I've moved pretty much more so onto either white or creature-based interaction. So I think there is a
Mhm.
pretty good case that I could easily play some unclaimed territories in this, but I haven't really looked much at it yet because this land base just has been functional and fairly inexpensive. It might be time to retool it though. That's a good call.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. That's a good point. That Azorius mana is super cheap right now.
Hmm. And yeah, I'd still flip flop a lot on whether I want counter spells in the sideboard. I think there are a few matchups it could be good for, but it doesn't tend to line up with the play pattern the deck usually has. Though I think with the printing of Personify, I do think there's a build that tries to play, more so at flash speed with swords, Personify, and then some sideboards or some counter spells out of the sideboard would maybe be a little bit less suspicious. And then let's look at the first place list from the event. This was my loss in Swifts in round three. This is Zombie Infestation. So this card has been seeing a lot of play in pre-modern. I know a few people have attempted it in this format, but I think this is his first really major result. A lot of what have got people excited about it is that we've got both Master of Death and Squee that come back to your hand every turn, guaranteeing you half of this zombie token every turn. And definitely what's going to stand out to most people first is there's two copies of Psychic Frog, and the deck is almost $3 under budget.
Yeah, definitely. Like they could probably fit a third one if they really wanted to. Like maybe messing around. Like I see there's two bitter triumphs taking up $3, so that definitely is kind of scary to see that they could
Extremely,
have
yeah.
more. Yeah.
And the card performed exactly as well as you would expect. They went on a tear with this card. It really does run away with games. Something else we talked about in that same pod was that Dimir mana is really rough. They opted for just the Snarl and Creeping Tar Pit, which are both good choices. I definitely think it hurts not having access to a fast land or a pain land. But hey, they have room to play a little bit slow, especially like turn three and four. You can go tap land backed up, with a little bit of interaction and card selection. And obviously, it worked out great for them. And then the other finals list, this list ended up getting second, and this is what took me out in quarters. And I definitely thought you'd have some input on this. So this is Nightmare combo built around Chthonian Nightmare, but a lot of the core of the deck looks like Hogaak. We've got 2 copies of Hogaak, 4 Vermin, 4 Freebooter, 4 Citrus Supplier, but it has access to, and I found, the Hogaak was really just a backup plan. How they were winning most of their games was with either 2 copies of Priest of Gix or a Priest of Gix and an activated sleeper, looped with Chthonian Nightmare to make infinite mana, then using like Gnawing Vermin to mill your opponent out. And it was incredibly strong. Like it was really fast. I lost my games on turn 3 and turn 2, I believe, with almost no room to interact with them.
Yeah, this list looks crazy. Like I I definitely need to try this one out. I mean, I honestly don't know what like half of these cards do just by seeing the name because there's a bunch of random one-ofs.
Yeah,
Like there's a Dark Ritual in there. I see
one Dark
the
Ritual.
Buried Alive is pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Lively
that makes
Dirge.
sense.
So yeah, this
Yeah,
is a
this I think a lot
really
of the one-ofs
interesting
come from
list.
this Grim Servant here, being able to be like a tutor and run a bunch of one-ofs that you have a little extra consistency for. It's a very cool way of building it.
Yeah,
Only ran a
only
7 card
16 lands.
sideboard and 16 lands. Yeah, this is really leaning me. Like it's trying to just combo as quickly as possible, and it did it. And so on to the MTGO Weekly that I missed. We see there obviously you took first place. Nice work.
Yeah, I got there on tiebreakers, I guess. No
Yeah.
one went 4 out this week.
Yeah, we did have 4 3 and 1s. So we've got obviously my buddy Kinda, who played Merfolk. We're gonna look at that. Sam played Creativity instead of Post this week, also went 3 and 1. Then Arcus Vale brought High Tide, and right below that we've also got Plasma, who played the all instant speed Reset Tide. I've been talking about this for weeks that someone's gonna get caught off guard. Eventually, someone's gonna bring Tide. Everyone knows it's a top tier deck, but no one ever brings it to these MTGO events. I'm not sure whether it's, because they think it's like spiky, it wouldn't be too much fun, or everyone already knows it's good, it doesn't have anything to prove. But eventually, someone's going to do it. And they did. They both got a good amount of wins. Did you get to play against Tide this weekend?
So I didn't play against Tide today, but that's funny you mentioned that because I actually played against High Tide, I think twice during the week, just like open lobbies, you know?
Oh,
Um,
so it's been
and
planned, yeah.
then, yeah, yes, I guess so. So once I did that, I was like, all right, I'm gonna throw a couple of damping spheres in my sideboard. I
That's a
usually
good
don't
call.
play damping sphere, but like just because I saw 2 of them this week, I'm like, all right, someone's playing High Tide,
It might be
so
time. I've been
I was
talking smack
ready.
on Damping Sphere in my last several videos because it is not good into post. Like, Sam has been running Damping Sphere in his post sideboard.
Yeah,
But you
yeah,
have to take
definitely.
that with the caveat that it is still good against Storm, and eventually someone's going to do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I'm in the same boat. I'm not a fan of damping sphere against host, but yeah, definitely against high tide or any kind of like storm like deck.
Yeah,
It's
some
pretty
decks that's the
important.
only tool you have. Also, note about this, obviously it was a little bit of a smaller turnout. We only got 12 people, but we only had one post pilot playing a list close to Duncan's Prison Post, and no Nadu and no Cascade is pretty cool. Definitely people trying different stuff out. So let's go ahead and look at your list, Mr. First Place.
Yeah. So this is pretty much the list I've been running for quite a while now. Like at least like probably like half a year or so. Nothing really new this week. I mean, last time I played it, I was on the 2 Vengevines just because I had
Hmm.
so much extra budget.
Yeah, and they
Um,
were incredibly good.
exactly, yeah. But it's gone up a little bit. My deck was like 60 cents over, and I like had squeezed out every last bit of budget, so I did have
Yeah,
to end up cutting one.
I see. You couldn't find anything
Down to
besides that
one.
second Vine to cut.
Yeah, went back to a couple blood gas because blood gas is like it's a little pricey, but I mean it's only what 320 for the two of.
Oh yeah, and
Um,
it's a great tool. It does fill a
yeah,
similar
and
role to the benchline.
yeah. Other than that, I mean, it's pretty much the stock list I've been on.
Yeah, I love
Got
this.
the smallpox,
Hatchery,
yeah.
Smallpox, and Souls of the Lost plan. It's really strong for going wide. I remember you used to have the fourth Pox, presumably for post or any decks that were like trying to buff one creature in your board. Why'd you get rid of that?
I actually, so I've always been on three. Last time I was on two main and one side.
Oh, okay.
Um, I I've thought about going up to four. I just feel like the like we're on a pretty low land count, so just
Yeah.
the land stack isn't like actually isn't always free, you know.
No, not on
Like
turn two at least.
yeah, so like the first smallpox is always really good, but then the second smallpox you draw, a lot of times like I don't want to cast it because I'm just like sacking too many lands.
That's
Um,
understandable. Yeah.
so three kind of feels like the right number. I tried two last time. I think like two or three I think is fine. Four is might be pushing it.
Yeah, it's probably not necessary. Yeah.
Yeah,
Some
but I
other
mean
cool
yeah, it is good
choices I
in.
know we've highlighted, like the Luen, I think is really strong. How's that been playing for you?
Yeah, it's probably like the second best mill creature to Stitcher Supplier. Just being able to mill four, like you
Yeah, and
usually,
select.
yeah, being able to mill like kind of like fix your draws a little bit. I'm only on two because it is legendary.
That makes
I
sense. Yeah.
could maybe go up to three, but I don't think I'd want to be on the full four.
No, definitely not.
So
And
I
it's
think
it's
I think
it's
two feels
okay
good.
to draw a second one because you still get the ETB at least, but I think two or three is the right spot for that. I see. Yeah,
Yeah,
we added the
definitely.
damping spheres. How's Shredder's
Yeah.
technique been playing compared to Feed the Swarm?
Um, it hasn't come up a lot, so I don't know like quite um like how to compare them yet. I mean, I'm still going with the Shredder's technique just to feel it out more.
That makes sense.
But like on paper it seems good, you know, it's could be one mana cheaper, could bounce like a Stitcher supplier, replay it, get that ETB.
Yeah,
So I think it's better, but I need to, you know, cast it a few more times to
just spend a little more time with it.
yeah, exactly.
That's understandable. It does look pretty good to me. This card is also awesome. Rotten Reunion. That, or a Leyliner Rip is the best way to attack Nadu right now. I presume that's mainly what it's there for.
Yeah, I just like this one because it has flashback. So if I mill it over, you know, I can still
Yeah.
cast it. Because like it feels bad. I used to be on a Soul Guide Lantern, and it just feels bad to mill
No,
over
it
your
just
Soul
doesn't
Guide
do enough.
Lantern,
Yeah.
and then yeah, so
Yeah. You're pretty
having
obviously
flashbacks there.
not a Luris deck, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Another 3-in-1 I wanted to touch on briefly was Kinda, who played a Tempo Warship Merfolk list. Now, he and Zonic and I have been working on Merfolk for a little while. I was trying to go full combo with Deeproot Pilgrimage, Opposition, and Intruder Alarm, whereas Servo has been having some success with just your more traditional, like Aether Vial Tempo Merfolk. Kinda met somewhere in the middle. No Intruder Alarm, and 4 copies of Warship. Also noticed he spent $2 on a True Name Nemesis, and he's got a lot of Lords, 10 Lords. This list is so sweet.
Yeah, this deck is really good. This was my one loss today, and it was
Uh,
just like I got absolutely wrecked. um,
that does
just
seem
yeah,
like a pretty bad matchup. Yeah.
but yeah, you mentioned all the lores. They just like were able to go bigger and wider than the Hogaak.
Yeah.
And then the worship too. Like I just can't win through that.
I guess not.
um,
Did you know to board in Artifact or Enchantment Hate in
yeah, I
game
did
two?
bring in. I knew I hadn't seen the worship, but I saw the opposition.
Yeah,
So I brought in the Shredder's techniques, but I didn't draw it.
makes sense. Yeah,
Um,
this would be the place where you definitely need him, though. That makes sense.
yeah,
Yeah, that list is sweet. Then we're going on to week two of the Spring League. This is also a pretty decent representation of the meta. We got a lot of sweet decks here. We got the Simic Nadu deck has been getting a few entries. Duke played that. We got Burn had a top result. One Nadu entrant. Sam on Epos went 2-1. Our 3-0 decks are Duncan on Broodscale and Santi on Miracles. We'll look at those real quick. Duncan's been working on this Broodscale list for a couple days, built around Basking Broodscale and a Black Splash for Ghost Lantern, and 2 copies of Sadistic Glee, outwitted by the Glaring Frustraker. I think this list is very sweet. This is definitely on instinct, not how I would build it, but I think I might just be wrong because he has been crushing with this.
yeah, definitely an interesting list. I was like working on brood scale just a little bit, like couple days, trying to make it work. Definitely, I'm in the same. Like, I would build this a lot differently. Like, I feel like you can like go with the post package here too, with all the with the Eldrazi, it works well there.
Definitely.
But the two skull clamp is definitely the most like
This is
interesting part of
insane.
this list.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a
Here's
third of the
almost
budget
half the
there.
budget. Yeah, 2 Skull Clamp, Soul Ring, and a Vexing Bauble. Skull Clamp is so
Yeah.
busted. It does
Yeah,
make
so
sense
it
here,
makes sense.
but
Yeah,
to
but
spend
also
$9 on it is very bold.
right, I would be just so tempted to like cut one at least one of them, and you have $5 of budget left.
Yeah, but like
Obviously,
the mana
you're
base he
you're
was able to
there.
keep simple. This is basically no budget here. But I noticed that he did run out of budget because he's got a bunch of basics in the sideboard as well.
Oh, I
Okay,
actually didn't realize that.
technically no
That's
reason not
hilarious.
to, right? If you don't have any sense left. And it has even
That's funny.
risen since that event. Our other 3-0 list is Miracles. This is pretty close to where the list has been, and that's also gone up pretty considerably. Miracles is always, kind of predicated on what's the price of swords and counterspell. And in general, this is pretty similar to the list that the primer went up on. The suppression field was a new tech, that was my suggestion. I know a lot of people like to joke that blue is banned, and I think Santi doesn't intend to bring miracles as much going forward, but still got the 3 and 0 on it. I think no one was really expecting to run into blue eye control this week.
Yeah, 3 is definitely impressive. Like, I mean, you just can't go wrong with four swords, four counterspell.
Yeah,
It's
that's
gonna be
the best
good in
interaction
almost
available in the
any
format.
matchup. So
But as long as you accept that is a pretty solid chunk of your budget. Almost $8 for the playset of counterspells and 5 for swords.
yeah.
And then our other weekly event was the mtgo Wednesday. Our first place list was Vacated Drake on Boros Energy. That was what I covered with Dude, the pioneer of the list, on my last meta breakdown. It's pretty similar to that, but he did a great job piloting it. We also had a Merfolk entrant there. We had Burn, Pox slash 8 rack got a top. I was very impressed with that. Didn't think that was possible. But the list I really want to highlight is Octopus on Lotus Field. Lotus Field is $7.33. So they're only on one copy, but apparently that was enough. This list is seriously insane.
Yeah, yeah. I saw the list briefly, and I saw the one Lotus Field. I'm like, why are they only on one Lotus Field? I didn't realize it was seven
That
dollars.
would be why, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But
So what
the whole
even?
rest of the package is incredibly cheap. Like Vizier,
Yeah,
4 for $1. You got Hidden Strings, pour over
yeah.
the pages, and you got Sylvan Scrying to tutor out your Lotus Field. And it looks like almost all of our sideboard here is a wish board. Emergent Ultimatum, I think this is the same win con that the Pioneer deck used.
What even is the win con? Is it like some super convoluted thing?
You know, I honestly don't remember
Okay.
100%. I know you get to grab monocolored cards with different names, and when one of them gets cast for free, I'm pretty sure you do one Mind's Desire, one Scholar of the Lost Trove to recast the Mind's Desire, and then maybe you grab a Granted to get
Hmm,
another piece out of your sideboard. That would be my guess. But I think once you get the mana that the Lotus Field and the Untappers produce, you can kind of do whatever you want.
I see. Yeah, there's probably a bunch of different lines with a
Yeah.
deck like this.
As I didn't get to play against it yet, I'm very impressed with this list, though. I hope that it continues to stay a somewhat viable contender because this is really impressive deck building.
Yeah, this is cool. I mean, I will say the one thing I'm always scared about building like some land-based deck is just that everyone's out to get post right now.
This is true.
So like everyone's gonna have like hate for for your land. So I see the dark depths there too, the Lotus Field. Like
Yeah, that one's got a
it's
little
always
fragility.
risky. It's always risky, but
So Lotus Field
it's
does have
definitely sweet.
hexproof. That is nice. It is
Oh,
cleansing
true, true.
wildfire, boom bust proof. It is not damping sphere
Got it.
proof.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's definitely still ways around it. You can smallpox it. You might have had a pretty nice matchup into this. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
something you need to
Oh, that
keep
would
in
have been.
mind with any of these land combo decks. I know Dark Depths isn't doing too well, but just including one Dark Depths in a deck that's focused around different land synergies has proven to be pretty strong. And then just end it with looking back at last week's event. If you recall, last week we had a little bit more traditional results. We had two Epos and then Nady Breakfast on top. Those decks did exist this week, but none in first place, and definitely a little bit less entrance than I expected. So, in my opinion, I'm still calling those, two of the most important decks to beat, but they maybe are reaching that point where, yeah, people think they have less to prove with it. They want to try some different stuff, but you always need to have those on their radar. Ryan, you got any closing thoughts about the metagame this week? Any decks to look out for next week?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Yeah, Post and Nadu definitely are the decks to look out for, but everyone's ready for them. So that's you gotta like be aware of that if you're registering one of those two decks.
Yeah,
People are
absolutely.
gonna have the hate for it, but
Yeah,
they're like even with against the hate, they're still that's why there's some of the best decks.
yeah.
Um,
And that's why
yeah,
we're going to be allowed to see completely different things like these pop up and top. Oh, I do want to give a little shout out as well to creativity. Got two tops this week. We had Sam brought creativity, and creativity got third in the event I played as well. I think that one is gonna be rising up in the meta right now.
yeah, definitely. I mean I feel like we haven't even seen creativity in a while, and then all of a sudden there's two in one day.
Yeah,
So that's pretty cool.
I know it's a little bit harder to play on mtgo because some of the cards, especially Pyrogoyf, are so expensive on Magic Online. That is a big part of it. But if that's not a barrier for you, that's definitely a list to try out. Maybe
Yeah.
fiddle with some of the splits a little bit. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the channel, Ryan.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks again for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you all for tuning in. See you next week.